And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast. We got a very special episode for you today. This is just a short little intro before we get into the main portion of our episode. But I did want to say something to you guys. Today's episode is sponsored by Adrenaline Shock. How about that? It's 300 milligrams of caffeine. It's smart energy, get you through the day. It's the best energy drink on the market. Don't forget about it. All these other competitors are just awful for you. They hurt your stomach, whatever. Go get your adrenaline shock. You'll be satisfied. I promise. Today's episode, we are continuing our conference previews. We have the Big East to cover today. Last week was the Big Ten. I think we're playing it by ear, which conferences we'll get to, which conferences we won't. But let me know. Let me know what you guys want us to cover. Let me know which conferences outside of the Power Fives and everything that you would like us to preview, and we will get that done for you. We're having a ton of special guests on every single time, and this week we're having John Fanta on to preview the Big East, a conference that we didn't know about a lot before because, a lot of guys left. Villanova is obviously the heavy favorite, but we learned a lot about some sleeper teams. No spoilers or anything, but there is a team an hour up north from Bloomington that Fanta thinks could be a sleeper team in this year's Big East. So let's get into that interview. And now we'd like to welcome on from Fox Sports covering college basketball, the voice for your Big East needs. We have John Fanta on today. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Sam and Connor. It's terrific to be with you. Season is just around the corner, so what better than to talk some Big East basketball? And to my Kentucky and Indiana fan here, I know that there's some banter there. I'll give the slight edge to UK heading into this season, but we'll see.
Can't blame you. I can't blame you on that.
Hey, I like it a lot. Hey, they got the Mike Woodson train going over here, and it's scaring me. Everybody's getting way too excited up here.
I'm rooting for that train. I want to see Indiana basketball get back to that level, but I have my questions. We shall see.
What was your reaction to Mike Woodson being hired? I'm curious if it was similar to mine.
So I was at Hinkle Fieldhouse when he got hired, and the reaction inside the building was the same one as mine, and that was, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked. I was absolutely stunned that Mike Woodson would come back to and really take on, not come back, but take on college, because I think he's at a stage of his career where I wouldn't think that would be where he would go. Look, big name, he's going to be able to get kids. But Indiana's never had trouble getting kids. Indiana recruits themselves, and they're going to continue to do that. You need someone who's going to drive winning. And I think for Indiana basketball, it's like, be careful what you wish for. Because, yeah, Tom Crean had his flaws, but Tom Crean still knows how to coach in-game. And Archie Miller in the Big Ten did not know how to do that. He did not know how to go through the gauntlet of the Big Ten. And I like Archie Miller. I thought he fit so much better at Dayton than he did at Indiana. Does Mike Woodson say to me, yes, this is the man who's going to turn around Indiana basketball? At first glance, no. But if he could bring in enough talent trumps all in this sport. And if you could keep that talent around for a little bit, then you're in a good position. Like, that's why I sit here today and I like Kentucky a little bit more, is because they brought in a couple of impact transfers. Kellen Grady is someone that I just think is going to add so much on the wing. They added in their front court as well, and now they finally are going to have point guard play. So for Indiana, I was shocked when Mike Woodson took that job. Shocked.
I think we all were a little bit. I was at a restaurant and Shams reported it on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God, what just happened?
No, but you mentioned it. You mentioned I'm going to turn it Kentucky a little bit before we get into the Big East. You mentioned you like what Kentucky did with the transfers. What was your reaction when it all came out that Kentucky reportedly turned down Kofi Cockburn from going to the program? But I thought it was fishy in the first place. But even if they didn't want him as hard as they should have, what did you think about that?
I don't buy that. I mean, I just think that's pretty ridiculous. Like, I don't believe that Kentucky willingly turn Kofi Cockburn down. Like that doesn't make any sense to me in a variety of ways. You're talking about someone who would have automatically become the best big man in the SEC,
Right.
and could have made them an even better basketball team. So I don't understand why that narrative is out there. But you know what? I'm glad about it. And here's why. I think that Kofi Cockburn best fits at Illinois. And I think sometimes you don't realize how good you have it until you come back.
Right.
And so for that case, I'm glad that he's back in Illinois. But do I think that Kentucky denied him? Maybe they did, but how? How could you say that? You know what I mean? Like that to me, it's pretty ridiculous. It would be like Jessica Alba walking into my apartment and me looking at her and saying, "Go away." You know, it doesn't make much sense at all.
Oh, gee, that is a great analogy. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
For sure.
But yeah, kind of moving on, Connor, you can ask him about Villanova. Let's get into this.
Yeah. So Villanova obviously is the best team, I would say, in this conference. I personally love Jay Wright. Sam knows I talk about him all the time.
He has a man crush on Jay Wright.
We were doing our predictions for the brackets last year. I was like, I don't care about injuries. Villanova's going to make a run. Jay Wright is a great coach. But moving off of that, they got 2 players to come back on their 5th years. That's huge for them. And, you know, Gillespie coming back, potential National Player of the Year candidate, Jermaine Samuels. So are we going to see the same dominant team, or do you think that potentially losing, you know, they lost Robinson Earl, is that a big loss for them?
Yeah, it is a big loss for them. And so here's what we know about them. Over the last 8 seasons, and I'm not one to always look at the past, but I think that this one bears noting. Over the last 8 seasons, this program has a record of 233 wins to 45 losses. So by the end of this season, because it's going to happen, by the end of this season, this program is going to be 200 games over 500.
Crazy.
200.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that is so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. So, and what's the key? So then you ask yourself, all right, what's the key? Well, Ryan Arcidiacono, then Jalen Brunson, and now Colin Gillespie. So they have an All-American point guard. And when you have an All-American point guard, you're going to be in every game you play. Like at the worst case, you're going to be in the game because he's going to manage the game. He's not going to turn over the ball. You might have a night where you just cannot hit a shot and you're going to lose. But Colin Gillespie is the driving force for why Villanova is a national championship contender. Jermaine Samuels at the 4, a 5th year. You said it, Connor. That's big for them. Why? Because he defends well. He's capable of having a 25-point game. His offensive consistency is a key question to answer. You think to yourself, when you've been around the game so long at the college level, that he should be able to score the ball effectively on a consistent basis. Whether or not he does that is a different question. Losing Robinson Earl is massive because Villanova's offense was geared so much around him last year. So what needs to change? They need the junior Justin Moore to take off. Moore has averaged just over double figures. Last year was a little wishy-washy. They need him to be that number 3 guy. At times, a guy who could be a number 1 guy on a given night where he's just hitting 3 for 3. He's catching, shooting. He's doing all those things. Okay, you've got Caleb Daniels, a Tulane transfer. You've got Brandon Slater, another wing player. Like, they have some interesting players on the wing that need to hit shots. If those guys are hitting shots, Gillespie's going to lead the country in assists, and Villanova's going to be a wagon. Villanova is based on dribble, penetration, kicking out for threes. That's what they're based on. They are not a team that's going to wear you down in the front court, especially this year. They don't have much in their front court. They don't have much at all at the center position. But if they have shot making, their spacing is lethal, and it's very difficult for you to play a big on the other side if Villanova is doing things the way that they're capable of doing. I just think with Gillespie and Samuels back, that alone makes Villanova a shoo-in for the Sweet 16. And I would sit here and say, God, if you're playing a second weekend game, that Sweet 16, and you're giving Jay Wright 5-6 more days to prepare for the game, man, that's a tough matchup for the opposing team. You guys remember this. I think that this is important. I don't think the national folks, like I'm even on a podcast on Field of 68, and I think they forgot about this. Baylor's road to the national championship last year. Mm-hmm. The toughest test that Baylor got was from a Villanova team that did not have Colin Gillespie.
Yes.
He wasn't playing for them.
Hey, I'll tell you what, for that first half, Villanova was kicking Baylor's ass. So and that was true.
That's when I texted Baylor, you, Sam. Yeah. I was like,
Baylor went on a run. Yeah.
I kind of jinxed him a little bit, honestly.
You want to know another layer to this season? So Villanova is going to play Baylor in December in Waco. Ooh. And I think people would probably favor Baylor in the game. Totally get it. And I think Baylor could win the game. Maybe I would pick them to win the game. But Baylor's got James Akinjo coming in. James Akinjo played at Georgetown 2 schools ago. And guess who remembers that? Colin Gillespie. He played James Akinjo when they were freshmen. So Colin Gillespie is so savvy. He's the perfect Jay Wright point guard. And I do think that, like, now in college basketball, we have to change the discussion a little bit. We're always discussing Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, and rightfully so. But we now have to add these pinpoint schools: Gonzaga, Baylor. I think now Texas with Chris Beard. It would have been Texas Tech if you were still there. And Villanova, because they just win. That's all they do. They're not as sexy as the other schools, but man, gosh, my goodness, does Villanova know how to win? So I'm banking on that and Gillespie as to why they could be a team that cuts down the nets.
So I have to ask you about 2 other players, and it's mostly because they were connected to IU at one point. First one, Trey Patterson. And I know he didn't really play last year. Will he make an impact this year? You say the front court kind of is it's open up and it's up for grabs, and he is a front court player. Do you think he makes an impact this year?
If he could stretch the floor, heck yeah. I mean, Jay Wright needs more help in the ability to space. Like Slater and Daniels are not particularly strong players. If I were to put Brandon Slater, Caleb Daniels, and Trey Patterson in a room, and you said who has the highest ceiling, I would pick Patterson. Patterson became eligible mid-year last year, so it wasn't one of those things where he could jump in and make some massive impact. I think with a full offseason, we're going to see the real Trey Patterson here this season. He will have a chance to contribute.
The other one is a newcomer, Jordan Longino. And I think IU is in a little bit with him, but I think they kind of fell off. I think they might have been in his top 5. I'm not sure about top 3 or anything, but do you think that he could make an impact with a crowded backcourt kind of? I mean, you got Gillespie and Justin Moore, so there's not a lot of minutes there, but maybe a roll off the bench for him?
Sure. I think a roll off the bench, again, 6'5" shooting guard. And you know what he's going to be used to do? I mean, again, guys, you got to shoot the basketball. Like he's going to have one job when he gets in the game. The problem is defensively, does he have a grasp of what Villanova wants to do to teams? Because that's what keeps freshmen from getting on the floor for Jay Wright. Is there a role for Longino to play 12 minutes a game as a freshman? Yeah. I mean, I think that that's within realm. We have to see a little bit more to be able to get a true gauge. But gosh, Villanova's non-conference schedule does not lend itself to really kind of getting acquainted because the Cats are going to play at UCLA the second game of the season. They're going to play at Baylor. They're going to play Syracuse at the Garden. They're going to play Tennessee and then potentially North Carolina. I mean, and if they don't play North Carolina, it's going to be Purdue. So it's like you look at Villanova's schedule and it's like, and then you play the Big Five and all those Big Five teams get up for you and you have to play some road games in Big Five play. It's one of the cool things about college basketball in the Philly area. Like they play true home and home matchups and it's there's a champion that's decided after the 5 schools in Philadelphia play. It's just Villanova keeps winning it that we haven't seen a change in guard. But it's really fun. It's traditional. So there's not much of a chance for a freshman to get acquainted. But if Longino can prove that he can shoot the basketball consistently, guess what? Jay Wright's going to play him because Jay Wright needs to find enough guys that can get him between 9 and 12 points a game. Like Villanova should be fine defensively. They play so hard. They need to be able to find complementary scoring. That is my key for them early in the season.
So kind of pivoting away from Villanova, they're obviously the firepower of this conference. They're the heavy favorite going into it. But the next team on the list is the newcomers. It's the Yukon Huskies. So obviously they have a talented roster coming back. Their main goal is to rebound from the loss of James Bouknight, obviously. And are we going to see a sort of emergence from RJ Cole coming in and being the number one option for next year?
I think that that's a really interesting way of putting it, because do I think that RJ Cole is going to consistently be the number one option on a team that wants to finish second or third in the Big East? I don't think so. Like, I do think that RJ Cole is going to be a very good player and one of UConn's better players. But UConn, to me, has a bunch of complementary players. RJ Cole, Tyrese Martin, Tyler Powley, Isaiah Whaley, Andre Jackson, Adama Sanogo, Akuk Cook. UConn will be the deepest team in the Big East. They will be the deepest team. They could quite literally go 10 deep.
Right.
Because they welcome back 7 or 8 rotation players from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Cole is going to have his 20-point performances. He'll probably have 4 or 5 on the year. That's what I would predict. For UConn, they need to find – I don't know if RJ Cole could be the point guard for this team and the lead scorer on a consistent basis. And by lead scorer, I mean efficiently scoring the basketball, go-to, ball in his hands, 2 minutes left. Who is taking the last shot for UConn? Do I think it's always going to be a Howard transfer? No, I don't.
Right.
I like RJ Cole. I like him a lot. He wants to have the ball in his hands, but I think Tyrese Martin's going to have to step up a little bit. I think Andre Jackson, the sophomore, he got hurt in his freshman year. He's got to be healthy for them and provide something. Look, they have Rasul Diggins. They have a kid named Jordan Hawkins, Corey Floyd Jr., Samson Johnson.
Their freshman class was incredible this year, top 20 in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, an incredible freshman class. If they find a scorer of those 4 freshmen who can prove that he can stay on the floor, play defense, and score the basketball, then wow. Right. Then we're talking about the second best team in the Big East. But to me, I don't know who their superstar is. Mm-hmm. I think there's candidates. I think Cole could be a guy sometimes. I don't know if he's the guy every game.
Right. Hey, our buddy Aaron Torres will be elated to hear you say that they are the deepest team in the Big East. And he will be so happy to hear that. So
yeah,
you just provided a great soundbite for him. There you go.
I do. I think that they're the deepest team in the Big East. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good, man. It's gonna be tough for them because there's a couple teams in this conference that are losing their number one guy, and we'll get to Seton Hall in a minute, but losing James Bouknight, who was your go-to guy every night, no matter what, he'll get you 20 even on his off nights. So losing that is going to hurt them. And I will be interested to see how they kind of bounce back from that. You said they have a deep roster, a lot of guys that can put some points on the board. So it'll be interesting to see.
Very, very interesting to see.
So kind of moving on to St. John's here. Look, I'm going to need some help on this pronunciation because I don't want to butcher it. Help me with Julian's last name here.
Julian Champagnie.
Champagnie. Okay.
Champagnie. Yep.
So
like Shams, but then Penny.
Yes, Champagnie.
There we go. We're calling them Champagnie for the
just sounding it out. It didn't sound right, so I wanted to I wanted to make
Champagnie.
Sure. Yeah. So Julian Champagnie and Trace, that's going to be one of the front court marquee matchups, I guess you could say, in the non-conference schedule. And I'm excited for that game. It's going to be here at Assembly Hall. I'm assuming Sam and I will be there. So that'll be a fun one to watch. Him coming back, obviously, is huge, 20 points per game. Posh Alexander, 10, 11 points per game. And they brought in some transfers as well. So kind of just give me your outlook on St. John's this year.
Well, tell me who Indiana's point guard is going to be.
That's kind of undecided. I would say Xavier Johnson probably has the nod there, but him or Rob Finney.
All right. Well, whoever it is, they better be ready, because the headliner to the evening that night is going to be Julian Champagnie against Trayce Jackson-Davis.
Yes.
The underlying storyline should be the point guard matchup, because Posh Alexander picks you up when you step off of the bus, or in this case, when you step out of your dorm room. This kid, Posh Alexander, is from Brooklyn. He is in your face defensively. He is an annoying pest in the way that he guards. And this is the driving force as to why I think St. John's is the second best team in the Big East Conference heading into this season. I would pick them number 2 because I think that Julian Champagnie is a legit scorer. As a sophomore to average 20 a game and lead the conference speaks for itself. Alexander is a great defender. Get this, guys. Posh Alexander, who's not getting discussed nationally. Posh Alexander is the first Big East freshman to win the Freshman of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year award in the same season since Allen Iverson.
Oh my.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
This kid is a gamer. Like I love him. He reminds me of Allen Iverson. Like that's how highly I think of him. I'm telling you, people are going to be surprised at how good this kid ends up being, because he's small in stature, but he is big time in the way he plays the game, and he does not let up. The transfer situation is a key one, because you lost 8 players, but you bring in a couple of guys with NCAA tournament experience. Mm-hmm. That being Montez Mathis from Rutgers, that being Aaron Wheeler, the Purdue big, who I don't know how good he's going to be, but he is someone who played for Matt Painter. He got coached by Matt Painter. He should give them length inside. They brought in a kid named Joel Soriano from Fordham, who they're very high on. And they brought in Steph Smith from Vermont, a sharpshooter. St. John's made good quality transfer additions, and they have the 1-2 punch between Alexander and Champagnie. The Johnnies are back. They are back. And that game against Indiana is huge for both teams from a resume standpoint.
Yeah, Aaron Wheeler's, he's an interesting one to me because, I've been watching him play for a while now. It's always like, this guy could be really good.
Yes.
And the frustrating thing was his best games were always at Assembly Hall. And he would, I remember it was the game that Bobby Knight came back, and he lit it up in the first half. And I turned to my friend who is a Purdue fan. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I just watched this dude airball 2 threes the game before, and now he's lighting us up. So he could be I always have wondered why that never worked out. I didn't know if it was a Purdue thing, a playing time thing. I don't know. So he kind of is a wild card to me.
Combination of both. And again, when Travion Williams is in your front court, he has a lot of control on what's going to go on,
Yeah. Right. No, I think St. John's, they always sneakily have, some of the best talent in the Big East. When it comes together, they can't put together a ton of wins, every year. And a couple years ago when they beat Villanova by like 50, you remember that? And then they went on to not even make the tournament. So I'll always be a bit skeptical, but go on. Yeah. Tell me why I should be change my mind on this team this year.
Yeah. So I agree. So, St. John's gives me Cleveland Browns vibes, and I'm a native Clevelander originally, but I'll tell you why. They have not won a tournament game in 20 years. It's been 2 decades since they've won a tournament game. That's unbelievable when you think about it. So the Browns had not won a playoff game in 20 years. In 27 years. They hadn't played in a playoff game in 20 years before they played the Steelers last January. The Browns, like St. John's, they both are pretty big brands with fan bases. Like they're flashy, and when they're winning, it's kind of fun. It's fun for their respective leagues. So for St. John's, now they finally have a coach. Mike Anderson's never had a losing season. So do the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have Kevin Stefanski. See where I'm going here?
Mm-hmm.
Flashy, fan base. Champagnie's kind of the Baker Mayfield of this operation. Posh Alexander kind of gives me the Nick Chubb vibes. Like, St. John's has these building blocks. They now have a coach. They have some competency from their athletic director, from their president. St. John's basketball has some stability in place. They have some star power. And it's not just star power. They have a winning coach, a coach who knows how to win. He's the reigning Big East Coach of the Year. What does that tell you about what the Big East coaches thought about him?
Sure.
So St. John's is a team that I think is finally back, and I think they're going to win a tournament game this year. I really do.
Wow. Okay. No, I like to hear that because and I think Connor does too, because Indiana's non-conference left a lot to be, desired. And
they need that game to be a big one. That one at Syracuse are their only two quality opponents in the offseason, to say it nicely.
Right. So
Sure.
So kind of pivoting away from St. John's a little bit, let's get into Seton Hall as one of the teams. So we have about 5 teams on here. Obviously, Villanova running away, but here's some teams that could compete. Seton Hall. They're a team that always competes in the Big East. Maybe not this year with the loss of Mamu, but, Bryce Aiken coming back. He was a big transfer last offseason. He got hurt, only played, I think, 14 games of whatever. Forded with Kentucky, 6-foot guard out of Harvard, can light it up. They're bringing in Kadari Richmond from Syracuse. He's kind of that tall guard role. He can kind of be your lead guard, be a point forward, whatever. He's an interesting case. I love to hear your opinion on him. And then just tell me, can they find a way to rebound from the loss of Sandro, i.e. UConn with Bouknight?
Yeah, so that's the big question there. Can they find a way to rebound with the loss of Sandro Mamukelashvili? So for Seton Hall, the best player on their team is the returnee, and that is the senior, Jared Roden. Mm-hmm. Jared Roden scored 81 points over the last 5 games last season. He was excellent. He played the game at a very high level and was in a position where he's averaging around 17 a game. He's really scoring the basketball well. What I like about Jared Roden, I think he's an all Big East first team preseason selection. He's a 6'6" wing. He's 210 pounds. It's all muscle. The kid's got an 8-pack, if there is such a thing. He really is a tough-minded player, and he's worked on getting better from a mental standpoint. Mm-hmm. Roden is ready to be this team's star. You brought up a couple of those guards. The key question for Seton Hall is, how does Kevin Willard manage his backcourt? Can Aiken stay healthy? Can Kadari Richmond, in his transfer from Syracuse to Seton Hall, can Kadari Richmond be a reliable guard? Not just defensively, but on the offensive end as well. Seton Hall brought in a couple of interesting freshmen. Brandon Weston, who's hurt. He's coming off an ACL injury. I don't know if he's going to play this year. And then you have Ryan Conway, another freshman who's an interesting prospect who should provide another piece. If not this year, then down the road. You have Miles Kale back for a 5th season. You have Iko Biagu back. They have a 7-footer in the front court, and they have a kid named Alexis Yetna, a transfer from USF, who I think is going to be really good for them. Roden is ready to be the star. For me, Seton Hall's biggest question is, what is happening on the perimeter? Offensively, what is happening on the perimeter? Kadari Richmond hasn't proven that he can score the ball effectively. Right. He wasn't in that role at Syracuse. He didn't play enough for us to know that. They had Boeheim and Gerard, and a situation where Richmond's not getting in over those guys. Mm-hmm. For Seton Hall, is Aiken going to stay healthy? Is Aiken going to stay healthy is a question we've been asking about Bryce Aiken now for 5 years. I mean, we genuinely do not know the answer to that question. If Aiken stays healthy, Seton Hall becomes a different basketball team. If he doesn't stay healthy, then it's on Richmond to carry this load. Seton Hall is a quality team, probably a bubble team this year, but a team that you're going to have to pay attention to. And you know what they do? Here's what they do, guys. You talked about Indiana's schedule leaving a lot to be desired. So let me ask you this. If Indiana loses to St. John's and Syracuse, let me say this. If Indiana splits, if they win one game and lose one game, how do you feel about Indiana then?
Okay, I guess. It depends on how they lose, I guess.
Like they have to go above 500 in Big Ten play,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
All right, there you go. Guess what Seton Hall has? Seton Hall, listen to this. At Michigan. Ohio State down in Florida on a neutral court. Either California or Florida on a neutral court. If it's Florida, wow. Home to Texas. Home to Rutgers. Yale, who's not bad. Like, they're a good Ivy League school. Am I missing one? I think that's it. But Iona on a neutral floor. Iona,
the Fighting Rick Pitino's? Oh, no.
Yeah, and Iona's going to be good. Iona is a team that could, if they ran the table and like lost the MAC title game, the committee might consider them for an at-large berth this year. Seriously, they might. So like Kevin Willard has scheduled extremely hard. I mean, you're going to Michigan, you're going to host Texas. That alone would be fine. You're facing Ohio State on a neutral floor. You're hosting Rutgers, your rivalry game. Like Seton Hall doesn't have to win every non-conference game. If let's say they shock Texas at home. Then if they do go 500 in Big East play and don't have any bad losses, they're going to make the tournament. That's the benefit of scheduling well. And that's the way to schedule if you have an okay team. If you have an okay team, hope that okay team is really good on one night, pulls off the statement, your students go crazy, the school gets on Sports Center everywhere, and now you're going to make it.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you. I think Seton Hall's been doing this for years. I remember there a couple years ago when it was Miles Powell versus Cassius Winston, like in the beginning of the season, and it was a great game. Everybody fell in love with them. Yeah. That
you got to schedule.
Right.
If you're not scheduling, why? Why? Come on. Don't you want to get challenged?
We're talking to you, Mike Woodson.
Well, I fear that a little bit. And there was the year with Romeo when they didn't make the tournament. I think they were 18 and 15. And I think that alone probably motivated the administration, whoever's making the final schedule, to lighten it up maybe for Woodson's first year.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, I understand that. Like Patrick Ewing's first year at Georgetown, they did that.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. Like Chris Mullen at St. John's did that. So I'm okay with lightening up the schedule early. I mean, DePaul's got a new coach, Tony Stubblefield. Their schedule's going to be easy in the non-conference. And okay, that's fine. I understand that. They got a lot to work on. It's a rebuilding job. But you're Indiana, and that's the only two games that you could play. Like you can't get one mark. Like St. John's, it should not be a marquee opponent for those in Bloomington. They need to get even bigger than that. They need to get an SEC team. They need to get an ACC.
I know an SEC team.
Oh, do you?
Right.
They'd be on the schedule if they would do it.
For the win!
They'd be on the schedule if it would be allowed.
Unbelievable!
I'll tell you what. I've sat through 3 class periods, I think, that have showed that clip in class. It hurt. It really hurt, but it's fine. It's fine. It happens.
I do agree, though.
My favorite. That's in my lifetime. No unbiased opinion. Regular season moments. That is right up there. It's probably top 5. It's top 3, maybe.
I'd have to say I disagree.
That's why it's in our
different
intro.
Reasons.
It was right around Christmas. Intro. Was it right around Christmas? Right.
I think it was
close to
December.
that time. I think.
Yeah. It was early December, late November, something like that.
Yeah, and it was a marquee matchup. It was like one of the only college basketball games on that day, if I remember. So like everybody was watching it, and that happens. I love college basketball.
It was a great moment. I will admit, unbiasedly great moment, biasedly terrible. It was just awful. But yeah, Connor, you can kind of take over with Xavier. By the way, spoiler alert, we have a friend on Xavier's team, so don't say anything too bad about him. But Connor, go ahead.
We do. Xavier, again, returning a lot of their key players from last year. Zach Freemantle, Paul Scruggs, Nate Johnson. Adam Kunkel, Kiki Tandy, which I have a little story about him. So when I was in high school and Sam was in high school, we played our high school castle. We played in this tournament called the Bossy Classic Invitational or whatever at Bossy High School in Evansville. And we played early in the morning. Our game was over with. And we heard about this kid named Kiki Tandy. And we were like, yeah, you know, he was playing Wrights, who Christian Lander was on the team at the time. So I was like, yeah, I kind of want to watch that. That's going to be a cool matchup. And to start the game, Kiki Tandy made 5 threes in a row, like pulling up from the volleyball line. Like, I'm telling you, it was the entire gym was like going crazy. It was like every time he made it, it was like, oh my God, he made another one. We're like pushing the people next to us. Like, it was unbelievable. It was one of the most unbelievable high school performances I have ever seen. And I was like, where is he going? Because he is going to be good. And I kind of see that he hasn't really hit his stride yet. Kind of been, I would assume, kind of an inconsistent player there.
Yeah.
But along with their returners, they bring in a guy, 2 actually from the Big Ten, Jack Nungy, former teammate of mine, friend, went to the same high school, and Jerome Hunter, another guy that, look, Sam knows I was a huge supporter of Jerome Hunter. Said he needs to just figure it out. Turns out Archie was the complete wrong coach for him. I don't think that which it's crazy to me how he ended up in Indiana, because the offensive philosophy did not fit him at all. And I think there were a million other reasons why he never got on the floor and play consistent minutes. But just kind of get your opinion on Xavier and their transfers that they brought in.
Yeah, so I was talking with Travis Steele yesterday, and then I'm talking to a couple of writers who were at Xavier's first practice earlier this week, and guess what they said? They said Jerome Hunter was the most impressive player on the floor. So that should make you feel really
I'm not surprised. The dude has serious talent. Serious talent.
Well, apparently you saw it first. You are the Jerome Hunter whisperer.
Go watch his high school YouTube highlights, which I did when he committed. He was actually playing at a tournament during my senior year, and he played a game. I was like, I want to stay and watch this guy. He's going to light it up, but we didn't stay. So,
yeah, I mean, well, apparently Archie Miller didn't stay either, because
no.
I mean, so if Jerome Hunter, you know, when he transfers into Xavier, and Jack Nungy does as well, I thought that was smart recruiting by Xavier. So Xavier last year, they start the season 8-0. 8-0. They had a couple of narrow wins, but they won. And in the COVID year last year, I didn't care how you were doing. And if you were winning games, I respected you, because it was all weird. Like, there were just crazy things happening. Okay, so they're 8-0. They then finished the season 5-8. They went 5-8 in their, their final 13 games, that would be. So they finished the season 5-8. They struggled. They didn't defend. They were playing Zach Fremantle at the 5, and he's really not a 5. He's a 4. He's a good 4, but he's just not a 5. He's from New Jersey. He's a good scorer. He was an all-Big East selection. For Xavier, they needed to get more physical. Well, Jack Nungy's a Big Ten big, and Jerome Hunter is also a physical presence that provides length. So now they're going to be better in that category. They had the nation's best three-point shooter for the majority of last season. His name is Nate Johnson. He transferred into the program from Gardner-Webb and has been fantastic for Xavier before he got hurt. Adam Kunkel from Belmont, another quality piece. Paul Scruggs is the superstar of this group. You're talking about a guard who could play the wing, but he'll play the point guard for them, and he'll initiate the offense. And he led the Big East and was top 20 nationally in assists last year. Xavier's offense is really good. Their defense is the area that they need to clean up. They have been a soft team since Chris Mack departed for Louisville. Travis Steele knows that he has got to get them playing better on the defensive end of the floor. Will they? That is the question at hand. If Xavier plays better defense, then they are going to be a tournament team, and they're going to be a team that could be a sleeper in the tournament. Xavier basketball, to me, has to make the tournament this year. They have not been since 2018. This program is not used to droughts. Like, when you think NCAA tournament, Xavier's been in the bracket almost every year for the last 25 years. They've not made the tournament now in a couple of years. Travis Steele has to get the Musketeers to the big dance floor. I think he will. And I think that Hunter and Nunji, adding them, having another year of Colby Jones, he's my breakout player in the Big East, along with a player over at Butler. Colby Jones, I think, will break out. Musketeers should be a quality team. Now they just need to finish better. They have not finished well in either of the last two seasons. You bow out last year with a loss to Butler. The year before, you lost to DePaul. That cannot happen if you're Xavier Musketeers basketball. The standard is winning. The expectation is winning. It's time for them to win.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And just a couple of years ago, they were the 1 seed. Am I mistaken in that? They were the 1 seed, and they can't have that anymore.
Well, they choked. They choked to
Florida State, wasn't it?
Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State got them on the same night that Cincinnati choked to.
Oh, this is some trivia. Yeah, let me think about this for a second. How you gonna have to tell me?
Eric Musselman in Nevada.
There it is. Oh, right. Yes, I remember that.
That to me is the night. That to me is the night Eric Musselman gets hired by Arkansas. Like, that night is when I think the country was like, yeah, this guy's really, really good. Like,
yeah, he's very good.
You know,
he had a really good team when you think about it. I mean, not to get too far off topic, but he had the Martin twins. Who else? I'm not going to remember all their names off the top of my head, but that team was talented as hell. And I remember that.
He'll be loaded again. Bringing in Chris Likes as their point guard is big time from Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. But kind of moving on a little bit, let's get into some quick hitters on a couple teams that we wanted to touch on that maybe aren't going to be the favorites in this conference, but we want to talk about it a little bit. Shaka Smart coming into Marquette. He brings in Daryl Marcel with him. Can you talk to me a little bit about what Shaka's addition means to the conference as a whole? Maybe if he's going to turn this team around, maybe.
Well, the Steve Wojciechowski experience did not work out in Milwaukee. Their standards are so much higher than what he was doing. He did not get a tournament win. This program was in the Sweet 16 under Buzz Williams. I mean, they were playing at a very high level. So Marquette needs to get back on track. What does it mean for the conference? It's a good thing, because Marquette, even though like with Marcus Howard and the Hauser brothers, they were hovering around the top 15 in the country, I don't think they were still being treated seriously from like, oh yeah, they could make a deep run. Shaka Smart gives them that ability. I thought that Texas and Shaka Smart, it didn't fit well. It's kind of like a square peg in a round hole. It didn't fit well to me. This fits. Shaka's from Wisconsin. He's going to be able to recruit. In fact, I think that they'll out-recruit Wisconsin. As he gets going, Shaka Smart to me, he's a better coach than Greg Gard. I just think that Shaka Smart, again, did not fit Texas tremendously well. He fits Marquette. This is a rebuild season. I mean, Daryl Morcell's coming off surgery. We don't know exactly what we're going to see from Daryl Morcell. They're going to have a freshman point guard in all likelihood and a kid named Stevie Mitchell. Their supporting cast, I got to tell you guys, I'm seeing them practice next week. I've talked with their sports information director. Nobody's sure who the starting five is going to be for Marquette on November the 9th. We have to wait and see.
Right.
We have to wait and see. For Marquette, the key player is Justin Lewis. He's a sophomore. He's a forward. He plays the game with a high motor and the right way. So for the Marquette Golden Eagles, a team that is going to be in a rebuild season, they're a back half of the Big East team. Let's see what Shaka does. What I want to see is this. Are they more competitive with the top of the league come March? Like if you have to face them and they're a 7 or an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament, are they playing more like a 4 or 5 seed in the Big East tournament, rather?
Right.
They're not going to make the NCAA tournament. But if you see them in the Big East tournament, are they playing more like a 3, 4, or 5 seed in the Big East tournament? If they are like a 7, 8, or 9, you see what I'm saying? Do you progress? Are they going to make progress? And will Shaka bring back Havoc?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Might. I have a feeling I have a feeling that Marquette is going to play a lot like his VCU teams played. That's my gut feel. We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah,
hopefully so. Ththat
was entertaining as hell. Yeah,
loved watching those teams.
Yeah.
Another team we wanted to touch on is Georgetown. Look, I bought in. He bought in hard. I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I hope they make a run. They're hot. Let's see it happen, and they didn't. So I don't understand this to a certain degree. Another mass exodus of players from Georgetown again.
Right.
But somehow, again, tying this back to Indiana as much as I can, because I'm an Indiana fan and we have a lot of Indiana fans listening. Aminu Muhammad, a guy that I really thought, if Archie was here, which, behind the scenes, maybe he knew that he was on his way out. I was like, Indiana's going to get this guy.
Right.
And Georgetown gets him. To me personally, I don't understand the appeal. I know Ewing is, NBA former player, knows how to get guys there, but just the program in general, it's like, I don't know where or what the appeal is for that. So just kind of give me your opinion on Georgetown and what's going on up there.
Yeah. So this is a great segue on everything, because it kind of reflects the state of the sport and the transfer situation in college basketball. Georgetown a couple years ago, and now I guess they would be seniors, you bring in Mac McClung, Josh LeBlanc, and James Akinjo. And those guys now look at the rabbit hole that they've gone down in different ways. McClung is no longer even in the college game. LeBlanc went to LSU. Akinjo is now on his third school. So Patrick Ewing is old school. Patrick Ewing is going to coach the way that he was coached by John Thompson. Patrick Ewing is a no-nonsense coach. He's going to lead the program the way that he sees it. By doing that, you're able to sometimes get more out of average players. So Jamarco Pickett and Javon Blair, last year, they frankly hauled ass in the month of March. Like, those two players, seniors, played better than maybe anyone could have ever imagined. And Georgetown brings in a couple of transfers. They brought in a kid from Northwestern State. His name was Chudier Belay. He plays his tail off during the Big East tournament. Qudus Wahab, who's transferred to Maryland, that's the biggest loss for Georgetown. Wahab is a huge loss for Georgetown. If Wahab's back for Georgetown, I'm still optimistic on this team heading into this season. For Georgetown, roster continuity has been something that they have not been able to achieve in the Patrick Ewing era. And yet they won the Big East tournament last year. So if there were an example of what it means to still put on a Georgetown uniform, we saw it last year. Like, you can win at Georgetown. Patrick Ewing just showed us what's capable, what's possible there last March. If I'm a player, if Patrick Ewing's being hard on me, you think he's being hard on me because he wants to be hard on me? He's being hard on me because he played in the NBA, and you want to play in the NBA, player X. Listen to him. Listen to him. So this year, these kids that are coming in, Mohammed, a 6'5" shooting guard who's going to start right away. You've got Ryan Mutombo, a big man. He'll play probably behind Timothy Iguodala, who played behind Wahab. And Iguodala's solid. He's serviceable. You got Jordan Riley. You got Tyler Beard. You have Jalen Billingsley. This team's going to be extremely young. They're going to be fun to watch because of how young they are. It's puppies. They might be a lot like what Auburn was last year. Auburn was a team that was not very good for a good portion of the year because they were so young.
Mm-hmm.
But that now, look at Auburn this year. They're looking like a top 20 team.
Right.
Georgetown needs to keep these 5 kids together. They cannot have these kids exodus after the season. What can you do to keep this freshman class around? If Georgetown basketball keeps these kids heading into 2022-23, then we really can start talking about the Hoyas being a team that we're going to be talking about weekly during a college basketball season. I don't think they're there yet. Too young. But last year was shocking. It's a surprise in my career covering this sport, and I haven't covered it for long, but I've covered 8 Big East tournaments by a wide margin. And I've covered 2 Final Fours. Guys, the most shocking thing I've ever seen in my life is Patrick Ewing in an 8 seed Georgetown winning the Big East tournament. It was stunning. Absolutely stunning.
I could not believe it when they beat Villanova in that first game. I was like, "There's no way this team is about to make a run. There's no way." And they did it in an ugly way in each game as well. It was not pretty. They were not firing on all cylinders or whatever. And then they got the tournament. Colorado just embarrassed them. But I mean, that was entertaining. I think that was all a product of the COVID year. Just weird stuff was going down. I think that was a great run though. I loved it. All right, our next question. This is the last team we want to hit on, and then we're going to get some of your predictions. But let's talk about the team about an hour up north from us, the Butler Bulldogs. So they're bringing back Aaron Thompson. They're bringing back Bryce Golden. They're bringing back Chuck Harris, their leading scorer from last year. Lost nobody. From a bad team, sure, but they lost nobody.
Sure.
So just talk to us a little bit about what you think Butler can be, and can we see a Brad Stevens type run from Laval Jordan? Or is that not going to happen?
Okay, well, can we see a Brad Stevens type run? I'm going to say no.
Dang, all right.
I'm going to say no this year. But I'm so glad that you guys brought them up. A lot of podcasts are not talking about Butler. For me, they're the sleeper in this conference. They are the sleeper team in the Big East. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking about them. They are the sleeper. Absolutely. You just said it, Sam. They bring back basically everybody from their team a year ago. And, that bad Butler team beat Creighton. They beat Villanova. They beat Villanova at the end of last year. They beat Xavier in the Big East tournament. They beat Seton Hall. Butler is a team that snuck up on some people. The key for them is, can they win away from home? But Thompson is a terrific lead guard. Chuck Harris is going to be a star. He'll be their lead scorer this season, I feel. I think Chuck Harris will be Butler's lead scorer. Sophomore, right around 6'4", plays the game at such a high level, relentless. Big game player, too. He was huge against Villanova. All right, so we move on. In the front court, you got Bryce Golden, Bryce Enzi holding it down. They're good. Butler's always going to rebound the basketball pretty well. They're going to defend, too. They're going to defend at a high level. The key for them is scoring the ball efficiently as a team. They did not score the ball well last year. They would go into major offensive droughts, particularly on the road, because Aaron Thompson doesn't have a great jump shot. Butler, though, is a sleeper because you are going to have to earn the 65 points you score against them. It's going to be a first to 60, first to 65 type of game or when you play them. And I think that the Butler Bulldogs are going to be a force. I mean, I really do think that they're a sleeper team. I think that Crossroads Classic over at Bankers Life, Butler's going to play Purdue. I think a lot of people are going to have Purdue in that game, winning that game. It'll be close. It'll be a war. That will be a tight game, tighter than people think. Butler is a team that is getting slept on heading into this season. When you defend the way Laval Jordan's teams do, you're always going to have a chance. And I think Laval Jordan has done a sneaky good job in this role. And you're going to start to really see it this year. Laval Jordan got a tournament win, I think, his first season. They beat Arkansas. I mean, they took them to the woodshed. They dominated the game. And then they played Purdue, I believe, in the next game. Yes, they played Purdue in Detroit. And they lost the game by a possession. Sneaky team. Real sneaky team that, to your point, the Brad Stevens run, the Brad Stevens run was kind of a reflection of the program because Butler plays ugly, but man, they know how to win ugly.
That's true.
Gritty, not pretty. Gritty, not pretty.
Gritty, not pretty. I like that.
You guys been inside Hinkle for a game?
No.
I've never been. Surprisingly, I've never been to Hinkle. I need to be there, though. And we need to find our way there this year. Connor, are you cool with that?
I'm good with that.
We
do a pregame show. Big East shoot-around goes on the road. We do pregame shows throughout the season. I can tell you the first game I saw this year where I was like, yep, we are going to be live inside the building for that game. Tom Izzo and Michigan State coming to Hinkle Fieldhouse on the second Wednesday night of the season, Wednesday night game.
Wow.
Hinkle Fieldhouse is going to be off the charts for that game.
That sounds awesome. We're going to have to find our ways there, too. We're going to have to find our way there, too. Yeah.
Sparty visiting the dogs. Yep.
Yeah.
Real quick, I have to do this. It's been my off-season motto. You brought up Purdue, so I have to ask. Are you all in on Purdue this year like everybody else is?
No.
Yes. Yes.
No. I said on a podcast earlier this week, I'm not all in. I'm not. I think Jaden Ivey is a terrific player. And I also think Travion Williams is a terrific player. I don't know what Purdue is beyond those two players. I have my questions still. And this might come off like a real tough take.
Just rip the Band-Aid off. Like half our viewers hate Purdue anyway, so let's get it going.
I think Matt Painter is a really, really good coach. I do not think he's a great coach.
Ooh, I've been saying we're seeing eye to eye right now. We're seeing eye to eye. I've been saying
really, really good coach.
Yes.
I think Purdue is a really good basketball team. Purdue, though, is one of the teams, can I see them cutting down the nets in New Orleans?
No, absolutely not.
I think Matt Painter is a better coach when his expectations aren't this high. I think when he has a completely average roster, he will outperform his expectations. He's not going to outperform these expectations whatsoever.
I don't think so. Yeah. People got them winning the Big Ten. I think that's crazy. Juwan Howard is 42-17.
Yes.
And they bring back Hunter Dickinson. Who's their guard? Who's their 2 or 3 guard? I have to look it up.
Eli Brooks.
Yeah, they bring back Eli Brooks. I'll buy Michigan or Illinois. Illinois with big shot maker Trent Frazier and Kofi Cockburn and Andre Curbelo, I think Andre Curbelo might be the most enjoyable point guard to watch in this sport because he plays the game like a soccer player with how fast he plays. And he's so nifty. He is so smooth with the way that he moves.
Right.
It's like he's dancing in the lane with how smooth this kid moves. He just has such pace, such tempo. Yeah. I love watching him play. I'm not fully buying Purdue. I'm out.
The thing with Curbelo, I don't have either of those teams winning the Big Ten, by the way. But the thing with Curbelo is,
did you have Purdue winning?
Well, okay, I've changed it since then. Well, I had Purdue at 1 preseason. Standings. I had Purdue at 1
standings. Did you have Purdue at 1?
But I said that because I have a surprise team at my number 2 in that conference.
Who's that?
Ohio State. I think Ohio State. Yeah.
Come on. They lost Washington. I don't think so.
I think EJ Liddell is going to have an incredible year. First team All-American, incredible type.
All right, we'll see.
I'm pretty sure I had Michigan, Illinois at 1 too. So we're seeing eye to eye.
Yeah, you guys are seeing eye to eye. I'm just completely on a different level than you guys, but that's fine.
Hey, let me tell you something. Big Ten's got to prove themselves in March Madness. I mean,
yes. And the conference is weak this year, in my opinion, than what it has been in the past. I think they're gonna, which Indiana's the wild card for me personally. I think the top 4 is really good.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
tell you what,
I think there's a drop off.
Let me tell you something. Don't write off Rutgers. That team is good. That team's good.
He's written off Rutgers 3 years ago, and he's never. They make me so mad. Never written them on.
I'm telling you, they're a good add to this league. Steve Peichel does a terrific job.
He does do a good job. He's turned them around.
Yeah, he's got them going. And Geo Baker and Ron Harper being back, they're going to be a pest. They're going to be tough to play against.
Yep.
See, my take is those two should be very good. They should. But they've never crossed the line of being really good. They just haven't.
They were right at the line when they were facing Houston. They should have beat Houston.
Yes, true. That's true. All right. So quick hitters before we let you go. It's been an awesome interview, a long interview. It's awesome. We know so much more about the Big East than we did before. So let's talk about it a little bit. Just quick hitters. You answer a short description of why, but I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay. Who's your conference winner?
Villanova, because they're the best program in college basketball with the best coach, already a Hall of Famer, in Jay Wright.
Okay. Coach of the year. I feel like that's the same thing.
LaVall Jordan at Butler.
Oh, there we go.
I love that. I love that a lot. Okay. Player of the year? I feel like there's only two. There's two main ones.
Julian Champagnie at St. John's.
Yeah. But I figured it would be him or Gillespie. And then finally, defensive player of the year.
Wow. A great question. Last year there were a couple of winners, but I'm going to go with Pasha Alexander at St. John's to repeat. I think Isaiah Whaley could also be right there at UConn.
Okay. There we go. That's all we needed. Thank you so much, John Fanta.
Hey, I want to add one player in this league that people are not talking about enough.
Okay.
His name is Nate Watson, and he is the center at Providence. He will be one of the 5 best big men in the country this year. Mark my words.
Write it down. You're giving some of the greatest takes right now. I love it. So we know so much more about the Big East. Seriously, everybody listening does too. Thank you so much, John Fanta. Whenever you want to come on, just let us know, and you have an open invitation.
Let's do it again, guys. Let's do it again. I love that Gavitt game. Second week of the season. Big East, Big Ten. Maybe we'll be talking again.
Yes,
sir. We'll see you at Hinkle.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Bye.
See you guys.